to Quartermile. We've got another episode for you today.
We're going to talk about university fulfillment and academic validation and academic fulfillment.
All sorts of fulfillment today.
Yeah, so we're going to give you some big sisterly advice.
If you will. We have really been through all of it.
4 years of uni, okay? I need to place my wisdom somewhere. So let me give it to you.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it. You know, I feel like so many people go and they have this, you know, idea and this like romanticism idea that like it's meant to change them. It's meant to be the most fulfilling experience of their life. It's meant to, you know, they're meant to find the one. They're meant to get together. They know what career they're going to go to. And like everything is like so, you know, everything's happening.
Definitely,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like meant to bring this joy and fulfillment in you that like, you know, it kind of comes with the university experience.
Yeah.
But do we think that's true?
You know, I have to say personally, it turned out very different to what I expected it to be. I think, you know, you go into university and for me, at least, I thought I'm going to have this click moment with what I was studying in terms of lining up with what I thought I wanted to do in the future. And within 2 years, I changed up my degree. I dropped what was initially going to be my major and majored in something else totally different. And now, if you told me this as I was entering university that I was going to swap my majors, I would have laughed because I was so dead set on it, and I was so certain I was going to have that moment of being like, this is what I'm meant to do. Didn't happen until 2 years later.
And that's fine.
Exactly.
Like, we both went to Scottish unis, right?
Yes.
And we did a 4-year integrated master's program. And basically in the first 2 years, you have to take other subjects too.
Yeah.
So I remember I did like sustained development, marketing, applying for a startup, business. Yeah. I did Persian, although I shouldn't have done that because, you know, a bit of a cheat system.
Gotta do what you gotta do to get those credits.
For those who know, I speak fluent Persian, but hey ho, it's okay. But the thing is, I went in like with more questions after the 2 years, so I was like, but I like doing so many things, and I was like, wasn't this meant to give me some answers about my future? And I was like, because I did English Lit, and then I was like, oh, what if I want to do marketing? And I did all this stuff for that, but then ended up sticking with literature, and I was like, oh, should I have stayed? It's just kind of confusing, but that's okay.
And I think there's such a beauty in allowing yourself to be flexible, especially within the first few years. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know what you want to do
and
afterwards.
There's such a pressure that you need to know what you're doing.
As soon as you exit, what are you doing? We're done. We still don't know.
Not a clue. Well,
so we started this.
Yeah. The thing is, like, so many people are like pressuring you. They're doing internships and everything, and then you're looking around and you're like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not getting this position? Why do I not have it figured out? And that's okay.
There's no need to compare. I think everybody is on their own track and everybody is going at their own pace, and at some point you will catch up to your peers. At some point your peers will be ahead of you. You will be ahead of them. But the best thing for yourselves is not to compare your situation to somebody else's.
The point is, it's not a competition.
It's not, and everybody has their own trajectory in life. Everybody's going to go through it at their own pace, and that's all you have to focus on is yourself.
Yeah, and what's meant for you will be for you. It'll never like pass you. And I think a lot of people forget that, you know, they're just stuck in comparing themselves and bringing themselves, and it's like, no, hun, like this is just the path you're meant to be on.
It's okay.
Everything will turn out fine. Yes. That's the thing about like uni being fulfilling, because it's like you learn a lot of like life skills.
Yes,
right.
You really learn a lot about life, going through life, and just in general how to develop your character, become more independent. Just you do learn a lot of this.
Becoming independent, dealing with people, like what you would do in certain situations, or like how to deal with like a bad news or whatever. Like I just feel like you learn so much about yourself and like life skills.
Yeah.
Maybe not academic skills, but definitely life skills. What do you think?
I would definitely agree. I think you really learn how to become your own person. I mean, we were also international students, so we were away from home, so there was a lot of things we had to learn.
A whole other continent.
Yeah, we were a hot minute away.
We were.
So learning to deal with a lot of things without having family nearby to kind of, you know, help us, and obviously they would try, but time zones and whatnot. So I think that also pushes you to be very independent, and just you do a lot of things that you think like, oh, I'm never gonna learn how to do that, like dealing with agents, like, and house hunting, moving, and doing all of that.
That was such a
such a blur.
It's such a pain, but like you'll be fine.
You will learn how to do it, but I mean, there's a point at time when you're younger and you really wonder, am I ever going to know? And you get thrown into it, you figure it out. Sometimes you land on your knees, sometimes you land on your feet, but either way.
Yeah, almost like paying for utilities. Like sometimes you forget.
Do you?
I didn't get my bill last year for like so long. And then after Christmas I got it and I was like, oh,
I want to pay.
it's not for free.
Oh,
like you just learn a lot of life stuff and you're like, oh, it's not like this, or oh, things don't just magically happen. But it's just part of it. And then with the whole feeling like fulfilled at uni, you just feel like everything is just gonna magically work out.
No, yeah.
And it just doesn't happen that way. And I feel like everyone has this idea of going in. I know I did. But like it's gonna be the best 4 years of my life. It's gonna be amazing.
Yes.
Oh,
looking back, it was hard.
It was hard, but it's fine.
Because we'll get through it.
I think we grew a lot as people.
Definitely. I mean, we met each other in first year very briefly.
She didn't want to be my friend. She was like, oh, she's a bit unhinged, isn't it?
I was like, I'm not sure we get along. And then we met again 2 years later.
We did. And she just couldn't stay away. We're like besties now.
What can we say? Ended up living together as well.
We did.
Yeah, so we definitely within each other have seen firsthand the growth.
Yeah, you do. Like, you're definitely not going to be the person you were in first year to who you will be either in third or fourth year, depending on your degree. But that's okay. The whole point.
Yeah, and I think that's so much pride in being able to walk out of university and looking back and like, yeah, you know what, I did some silly things in first year, but I've learned, I've grown, and this is me now.
I feel like you need to get it out of your system though in first year. Like, do all your silly things, like nothing counts.
Make the mistakes because you don't learn without making these mistakes.
Exactly. And like, I know in like the UK system, the first year, whether in English or Scottish uni, the first year doesn't count.
Yeah, academically
speaking, the first year doesn't count. You still have submissions, but like the grades don't count.
And you have to have a minimum pass, but it doesn't go towards your final grade.
Exactly. So make your mistakes then, because after that,
you've got to get your head down.
It's like, I love you, but get it together. But yeah, make your mistakes in first year, and you'll see how much you've grown after.
Definitely.
For sure. And there's also this pressure when you come to uni. I was like, oh, I'm gonna find the one. It just doesn't happen.
And for everybody, okay? It happens for some. But
very few. So don't think you're the one.
Or don't put that additional pressure on yourself. Just go through it for you.
You might.
Exactly. There's a very good chance you will, but there's also a very good chance you won't.
Because also everyone's kind of like going through it at uni. They're trying to find themselves. They're trying to figure out what clicks for them and not.
Exactly.
So don't put that pressure on yourself because you're still growing. So
like who you are in first year won't be the same as who you are in third year, and that would maybe be similar for other people around you too. So
exactly. So don't put that type of pressure on yourself because realistically, everyone's just a bit unhinged.
Going through it, figuring it all out.
Yeah, so don't put that pressure. Oh, university is the time of my life. You know, it definitely has its good moments and everything, and it is fulfilling. But I feel like if you're looking at it to solve like certain external problems or like finding someone or whatever, like,
or like if you go in thinking you're going to have that click of I know what I want to do, I have my life together, don't put that pressure on you because it doesn't always happen, and that's okay because it will take you down a path that is much more meant to be for you.
Exactly. I feel like if things don't work out, like if you don't get the grade that you want, if you don't get the internship that you thought you would because you did X, Y, and Z,
and you don't like the course you thought you would, like
like life goes on and you can't be so hard on yourself at uni. Uni's hard enough without the self-judgment.
I mean, with friendships, relationships, academia, if you're living away from home, if you're living at home and balancing university, managing all of that, there's so many things that are going into you.
I remember since we were international, we were like literally living in a whole other country. We were like homesick, trying to find friends, trying to find new people, and trying to like balance academia with social life, and trying to make sure that like, you know, you have friends,
and like keeping in touch with family,
but then being on top of everything else, doing your internships. It's a lot.
It is a lot to balance.
And I feel like people forget to like be kind to themselves.
I agree, and being patient as well. Like, don't rush yourself into something. Don't rush yourself into figuring things out. No, you've got to be patient. You've got to be kind. Allow yourself the time to grow and develop and become a new person, become a new version of you.
The fulfilling part is to grow.
Exactly.
I think it's just like to learn the flaws you didn't know you had, to learn how to deal with certain situations, to know in yourself that you've grown as a person.
Definitely.
That's the fulfilling part, not the, oh, I achieved this, that's part of
That's
it.
also, yeah.
But, you know, the stuff that you learn internally is the stuff that you're going to carry with you later, and it's going to be with you forever. So don't look at external things to be fulfilling for you.
And going in, I definitely put a lot more of an emphasis on academia in comparison to character development, and I quickly learned my lesson there. I was like, oh, it's not just about studying and getting this piece of paper.
I need to make friends.
There's a lot more to this. I've got to try and survive here.
Exactly. If you wanted a piece of paper, you could have just made one on Google Docs and just like printed out for yourself.
Or did like an online course.
Or did like an online course. But you're there, you go to uni to be a better person, to grow as a person, to kind of get a mini feel of how life would be outside of academia, because after that you can't hide behind academia anymore. Like, that's it.
At some point you're gonna go out and face the real world. And also, this is also important because personally I also met people who went through a year, went through 2 years, and then realized, you know what, academia isn't for me. That's also okay. That's not the only route that's available. There are so many other routes available too. Exactly. So just because you've gone into it, you don't need to finish if you've decided, you know what, I really can't do it.
Do you think society places an unfair pressure for students to go to uni?
I think there is a huge element of like, oh, it's like for some people they think it's the only thing to do, and then, you know, but I also do think nowadays there's a lot more available if you don't think that's for you. I think there are a few more options that you can go through, but yeah, I definitely do think there is a sort of pressure.
I do think now, like, when you want to apply to jobs, it's more like the experiences that you have.
Like, it's that, but then there's also a combination of some places where they are looking for that check, like, do they have an undergraduate degree, do they have a master's degree? And we were having this conversation about job applications, as a lot of them ask, so do you have a master's, or when's your plan to do a master's? And it's like, oh, I've just finished 4 years. Give a girl a minute to get it together before she thinks about it. But there are some places which still are looking for that, and it's, you know.
They do. Yeah. But now it's like that, and then, but what did you do to show me that you actually want this job? And it's like, what do you want from me?
You want me to do everything? I'm just a person.
Exactly. So be kind to yourself. Yeah. Like, if you want to dedicate your entire life and time to a certain path, do that. Like, if that's what's right for you, do it. But if you're seeing a friend who's doing that and you're like, oh my god, why am I not? That's okay. Because that's not for you.
Don't compare yourself.
Like, the part where you're gonna feel pressured and the part where you're gonna be like doubting yourself, self-doubt, is when you compare, and that's just so toxic.
Definitely. It's really important to have a healthy relationship with yourself going through
and your friends. I feel like if a friend is like putting you down for not doing X, Y, and Z, like not getting that internship or not even getting into what you wanted to, and they're like talking down to you or whatever, like, I think you should like reevaluate that friendship, because sometimes friends try to push you to do well, and that's different than someone who's actively putting you down.
Yes, I agree.
You know, instead it's like kicking you when you're down.
And this kind of will relate to another episode of ours about talking about friends and everything, but there is definitely work also goes into developing friendships. I think, you know, you find a more steady group as a few months pass, or even sometimes a year passes, and then you find a group that you're like, oh my gosh, okay, you know, like, these are the people I'm always going to.
You meet so many people.
And it's okay to, like, because you are changing as well, so who you're friends with in first year in comparison to your final year, like, it's okay if that's different. Because work also goes into that and cultivating various friendships over time.
You could be the most extroverted or the most introverted person, but you will guaranteed to meet so many people.
A lot. Because you meet people from living in your dorms, you meet them in like the first week going to society events, you meet them from classes, library, like everywhere.
And like your degree has like multiple classes within that degree, and like for me anyway, I didn't have the same person in a class like ever.
It was always different people, and so each semester you're kind of meeting new friends.
So if you find a group that you're like, maybe I don't click like right away, which we'll talk about later more, that's okay, because you will find your people.
And that also takes time, and don't just go into a group because you want that friendship. No, it's okay. Give yourself the time to find the right group that is for you, because it will happen.
Exactly. So the whole thing about uni being fulfilling and having all these big friendship groups, having everything sorted out, finding, you know, love of your life, I don't know, whatever you want, you'll figure it out.
You will
And
figure
there'll
it
be
out.
so many bumps, but don't go into it being like this. It will be the best and hardest moments of your life.
Yes.
I think. Right.
I definitely agree. You will go through some really tough moments, some really low moments, but you will also go through some amazing core memories that will be formed.
Exactly. Like, we have so many core memories, and we will share them with you.
Yes, as these episodes progress,
Yeah.
you will definitely get these stories out of
We'll,
us.
expose ourselves a little bit. But know that you're not alone.
Exactly. You need to find your friend you're going to blast Disney music to at 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah, and as Meredith Grey and Christine said, dance it out sometimes too when it gets
Exactly. You've got to dance it out sometimes.
Yeah, so you're doing great, sweetie.
And it's going to be fine.
Yeah. What's your take on academic fulfillment?
Oh, I think, initially there's this pressure of whenever you come out of high school, whether you're doing A-levels, IB, or whatever your high school degree was, to kind of almost continue that streak or better that streak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an adjustment. You're swapping to a whole new system, you're swapping to a new grading method, and also you're writing a whole new form of like essays or doing new tests that are obviously going to be hard in material. So I think there's also this need to be kind with yourself and giving yourself the time to evolve, learn the new ways, learn how to do them, learn how to sit the test, and not immediately expect to see the results all the time. For some people that will be the case. It will be a very natural progression, but that isn't the case for everybody, and it's important to
For a lot of people
be patient and be okay with that.
Yeah, because you have to learn how to write a whole new way now.
Exactly.
And you're not going to get it within the first few weeks or first month of being at uni. And things you did IB and I did A level, right? So we're qualified, guys. So for A levels, I did literature, history, and GovPol, government and politics, and you had to write differently for each subject.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came to uni, depending on what I was writing, be it for business or literature or whatever, the way that you were writing was also different. And then it just takes time to learn, what your markers are looking for and how you're meant to actually analyze X, Y, and Z. And you just have to be really patient. I know a lot of people measure their worth with academic validation, academic success.
100%. There's such a pressure that people put on themselves
literally.
That you are worth what you see on that piece of paper, or when you press open on the results, associating the two together, and there is not a need to do that.
And you're measuring your happiness with academia and academic fulfillment, and I just think that's so toxic because you're narrowing your worth to a number when you have multiple different examiners and you'll have different examiners per subject or whatever. Yes. And some people look for different things. That's the biggest thing I've learned at uni.
We saw that so many times, that you would do so well in one course and then you'd assume, okay, you know what, over the rest of them it's going to be pretty similar because you write in the same style, but then your grade differs so greatly, and it's
completely.
Sometimes it's dependent on who's marking, it's dependent on the course, what they're looking for. But like I said earlier, it's also about that adjustment from the high school level writing to the university level. And this is, I guess, more specific to those of you who will be doing coursework-based projects. Because in IB, and I'm sure it's the same for A-levels, you're very much so writing to a format. Yes. You've got to hit certain pointers, you've got to include certain key phrases.
You've got your A or 2, A or 3, A or 1.
And when you do that, you know you're good to go. But at university, it's very much so, it's more opinionated, it's more... there's less of a formal structure, and you're learning that you've got to let your brain kind of
and if you're doing humanities subjects, obviously everyone says, oh, there's no right or wrong answer, whatever your point of view is, just argue it. Just, kind of know who your marker is, because they have an opinion.
Listen to what your tutor teaches you.
And
go on that.
If it's not their opinion, it could affect your grade, which is horrible because that means that you're not actually given academic freedom. Yeah. But if you've written a piece that is the most the best piece ever,
and you're very comfortable and confident in that point that you have argued, go for it.
Go for it. But if it isn't the grade that you wanted, sometimes it's not even a reflection of you.
It's not, and that's it's okay.
And it's not just us two. We've had friends as well who this has happened to as well. So when you're at uni, you just can't measure your worth with academic.
I did my dissertation on this. About talking about how we find assessment and feedback was a whole part of it, and that was something everybody across my interview said is that they don't have the consistency when it comes to assessment and feedback. And this is again more specific if you're writing essays, because when you're studying a formal paper, there's kind of a mark scheme to follow. But when it comes to essay subjects, it's not so much a mark scheme and more dependent on your marker, and because of that, it does vary course to course.
Exactly. So you just sometimes, I'm not saying like if you didn't do well, you didn't get a good mark, that's on you. But
like at sometimes you've got to work a bit harder. Listen to the feedback.
But generally, if you've worked really hard, and most of the time you will see that reflection, but sometimes it's really out of your hands, and that's what's really difficult. So you just can't measure your worth that way, and sometimes you're not going to get that academic fulfillment that you thought you would. And say at school, like during A levels, like if you were so good, right, and you were getting consistent A's and A stars or whatever that you were getting, and then you see that big jump, that drop when you come to uni. Do not panic.
I mean, I remember in one of my very first tutorials, our tutor literally told us, you guys are first years, don't think about these grades. You're not achieving them this year. And I remember just looking at her like, excuse me?
They were like, if you're getting 50s, you're doing well. And I was like, what?
50%?
Literally. So it's like you have to like allow yourself to adjust. It's like, you know, when you do GCSEs and A levels or IB, it's a 2-year program. You're not going to be getting those A's and A stars when you start it. You know, you're going to get better as you go ahead. It's the same with uni.
These are 3-4-year programs sometimes. Exactly. So you've got to give yourself that time to grow into it. And it will be okay.
And your ego will take a hit.
Oh, multiple times.
It will. Like I was humbled very quickly when I came to uni. Because when you're consistently getting really good grades, and then you go and you're like, oh,
never mind.
It's like you are like whacked into shape.
And don't let self-doubt take over. I think we have both had moments of where we've questioned our abilities to perform academically.
And question whether we should even be there.
Yes.
I was like, everyone else is so small. What is wrong with me? But that's normal.
It's okay. It's, you know, you've just got to make time for these adjustments, allow them to happen. And you know what? One bad grade doesn't define anything. 5 bad grades, that doesn't matter. As long as at the end of the day, you're putting the best work that you can forward, you're working as hard as you can. I think that's all that matters, because when you press submit on those exams, on those papers, and you know that yes is an answer to all those questions, this doesn't matter. It's not in your hands anymore.
At the end of the day, no one's going to be asking you in 5 years, what did you get on this essay?
Oh my gosh. Even, I mean, I found at university a lot less people ask about your grades. Like, it's more of like, oh, were you happy? And that's kind of the generic question. Nobody pushes you. Some, you will definitely have those people who do, but you just learn to just say, oh, I'm happy, I'm pleased. Or if you, like, you don't want to share, just say, oh, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But even, it's not a focus anymore on...
No, but the point is you can't measure your worth with a number.
It's not.
And the thing is, that university got thousands, hundreds of thousands of applicants or whatever, and they picked you.
Exactly. You deserve to be there.
You deserve to be there. Out of everyone, they picked you. So whenever you're thinking, do I even belong here? Yes, you do.
Exactly. And if there's ever that person who's making you question whether you belong there or not, it's like you got there as much as the same as
much as they did. You went through the same process. You wrote statements. You did your UCAS.
Going to graduate from the same university.
Exactly. So let them say whatever they want to say. You're doing the best that you can, and you do belong there, regardless of what anyone else is saying. You belong there just as much as the person next to you.
It's just about figuring it out. That's all.
Exactly. And it's about knowing that like life is more than
a number. That's another thing that you learn definitely at university, is that grades aren't everything.
Exactly. And the thing is, I feel like when you're at school and you're constantly surrounded by academia, you know, you go to school at like 7, you come home around 3:30 or whatever, and then you do homework, and then you repeat
for like day in, day out, and then on the weekends you're still working too.
But at uni, it's like you have a lot more independence and you have a lot more free time. Like I felt like high school, like A levels, was a lot harder than university for me personally, anyway, just because it was so much more intense.
Yes. And a lot of things to manage as well at one time.
And you're constantly being graded. You're constantly doing practice papers.
Always exams. Always exams. Especially the last 4 years, like when you go into GCSEs and then up until the end.
You're always doing mocks and everything, and I feel like you're so consumed by academic validation that when you go to uni, that all disappears and you're like, I'm not.
Because there's time to explore other aspects as well as academia. I mean, you have the ability to join so many different clubs and societies. I mean, you might go off on a sporting venture, really develop that, and you can do all those things.
At the same time. Like, you'll see some people have networked and now they're doing positions that they never dreamed of.
Exactly.
You know, and they didn't need to do well in that paper or whatever because they've networked.
It's irrelevant, that paper.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, it's not everything. You go to uni, you meet people, you're networking, you're joining societies, you're doing these sport things.
Trying new things.
Exactly. So life is a lot more
than a grade.
And do not equate your worth with a grade. Because that's just toxic.
It is. It's toxic.
And we're not toxic.
No.
We're crying in Quartermile, but we're not toxic. We're not toxic.
A good cry is always good.
A good cry is always good, but we'll get to that later.
So, fulfillment. I've spoken a lot about that today.
It's huge.
It is. Like, it's a big topic. Where you seek it from, where you're getting it from, knowing there's more ways than what you know.
Like, going to uni thinking like it's going to solve everything in life and make you find the one, academic fulfillment, whatever. Like, it's such a huge part, and I feel like once you put pressure into seeking something else that'll fulfill you, that is when you're going to go downhill at uni.
And the only thing that really matters is making sure you're trying your best, you're giving yourself time to grow, time to do new things.
Make sure you're happy.
And you're being kind to yourself. That's all that matters.
Be kind to yourself and make sure you're happy. I feel like people get so consumed with the socializing and the academia and whatever, and thinking they're not doing enough.
And sometimes external pressures on people as well.
Exactly. And it's like, do what makes you happy. That's when you're going to be fulfilled. Not whether you get a first on this page or not, if you get that guy to ask you out. Like,
or if you're with this certain friendship group.
Exactly.
Those things aren't going to matter.
You need
in the long run
to find fulfillment within yourself.
Definitely.
And that sounds so cliche.
But it's so true.
It's so true. Like, it's going to uni, yes, it's going to be the best years and some of the most challenging years.
It will be both in one.
Yeah, but you just...
ride the wave.
Ride the wave.
Through it all.
Yeah, but you also have to be fulfilled within yourself.
Yes, make sure you're always taking care of yourself, putting yourself first.
Exactly. So, is uni fulfilling?
In various ways.
Wow, that's so academic. Let's talk about
such a typical sociology answer.
It's like yes and no.
Yes, and no.
But it's been real.
It's been real, you guys.
It's been real. But you're doing great, and everything will be fine.
And we look forward to another episode.